What if I told you that one small action you take within the first 30 seconds of waking up could significantly increase your risk of heart attack or stroke, especially if you're over 60? It's not a dramatic event. It's not an extreme habit. It's something millions of people do every single morning without thinking. And here's why this matters. Cardiovascular events, heart attacks, strokes, sudden cardiac death, are not randomly distributed throughout the day. What the research consistently shows is that the highest risk window occurs in the early morning hours, particularly within the first hour after waking. Why? Because your body undergoes a powerful physiological shift the moment you open your eyes. Here's what's really going on inside your body. When you wake up, your brain activates the sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response, cortisol surges, adrenaline rises, blood pressure climbs, your heart rate increases, platelets, the cells involved in clotting, become stickier. Blood viscosity increases slightly due to mild overnight dehydration. Now imagine layering one common 30-second mistake on top of that already fragile state. For millions of adults over 60, arteries are stiffer. Blood vessels are less elastic. Plaque may be present. Endothelial function, the delicate inner lining of your blood vessels, is not as resilient as it once was. So when you abruptly stand up, grab caffeine immediately, check stressful messages, or shock your system before it stabilizes, you amplify that morning cardiovascular surge. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your cardiovascular system like a garden hose that's been sitting still all night. Pressure is low, flow is slow. Then suddenly, someone turns the faucet to full blast. If the hose is new and flexible, it handles the surge. But if it's older and stiff, the pressure spike can cause damage at weak points. That's what can happen inside aging arteries during that first minute of your morning routine. This isn't about fear, it's about timing and physiology. Because the good news is this: the mistake is easy to fix once you understand it. In today's video, we're going to break down the exact 30-second mistake. What happens inside your heart and blood vessels when you do it. Why adults over 60 are especially vulnerable. And the simple morning protocol that dramatically lowers risk. This is about protecting your heart, your brain, your energy, and your independence. When you wake up in the morning, your body doesn't simply turn on. It shifts gears rapidly. Here's what's really going on inside your body during those first few minutes. As light hits your eyes, your brain signals the hypothalamus. This triggers a cascade through your adrenal glands. Cortisol rises sharply. Adrenaline increases. Your sympathetic nervous system activates. Blood vessels constrict. Heart rate climbs. This is called the cortisol awakening response, and it's completely normal. But in adults over 60, the cardiovascular system doesn't respond the way it did at 30. Arteries gradually become stiffer with age. The endothelium, the inner lining that helps blood vessels dilate, becomes less responsive. Plaque buildup may narrow certain areas. Blood pressure regulation becomes more sensitive. Now combine that with what cardiologists call the morning blood pressure surge. Research consistently shows that blood pressure rises significantly within the first hour of waking, and that this rise is associated with higher risk of heart attack and stroke, particularly in older adults with hypertension. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your arteries as elastic tubes. When you're young, they stretch easily when pressure rises. As you age, they behave more like rigid pipes. When pressure spikes, instead of expanding smoothly, they absorb that force more abruptly. Now layer in the most common 30-second mistake, jumping straight out of bed the moment your alarm goes off. When you move from lying down to standing quickly, gravity pulls blood toward your legs. Your heart must immediately pump harder to maintain blood flow to your brain. Your blood vessels constrict rapidly. Pressure fluctuates. In a flexible cardiovascular system, that's manageable. In a 65 or 70-year-old with arterial stiffness, that sudden pressure shift can strain vulnerable areas, particularly where plaque may already be unstable. This is why cardiovascular events cluster in the early morning hours, not because waking up is dangerous, but because the combination of hormonal surge, pressure spike, and abrupt movement creates a perfect storm. And here's the critical point. The first 30 seconds set the tone for the next 30 minutes. If you shock your system, you amplify that surge. If you ease into the morning, you blunt it. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. I break down complex physiology into simple daily strategies like this every day. That sounds obvious, but the physiological consequences are often underestimated, especially after age 60. Here's what's really going on inside your body while you sleep. You lose fluids continuously through respiration and subtle perspiration. Even in a cool room, you exhale moisture with every breath. Over 6 to 8 hours, that fluid loss adds up. By morning, many people are mildly dehydrated. Now let's connect this to cardiovascular risk. When you're dehydrated, plasma volume decreases slightly. That means the liquid portion of your blood becomes more concentrated. Hematocrit rises, blood viscosity increases. In simple terms, your blood becomes thicker. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine pouring water versus pouring syrup through a narrow tube. Water flows smoothly. Syrup requires more pressure. It moves slower and creates more resistance. Your heart is that pump. Your arteries are the tubes. In the early morning, your body is already experiencing a natural blood pressure surge. Now add thicker blood to the equation. The heart must generate more force to circulate it efficiently. Pressure against arterial walls increases. Areas with plaque buildup experience more mechanical stress. But there's another layer. Platelet activity is also higher in the morning. Studies show that platelets, the cells responsible for clot formation, are more reactive during early hours. Combine sticky platelets with thicker blood and higher pressure, and you create a pro-clotting environment. This is one reason heart attacks and strokes occur disproportionately between 6 a.m. and noon. Now think about the common 30-second mistake again, waking up and immediately standing without rehydrating first. You've just taken a system that is hormonally stimulated, pressure elevated, and mildly dehydrated, and added gravitational stress on top of it. Over time, this daily pattern compounds risk. The solution is remarkably simple. Before you stand, sit upright in bed, take 5 to 6 slow diaphragmatic breaths, then drink 250-400 milliliters of room temperature water. Give your circulation 60-90 seconds to stabilize before placing your feet on the floor. This small intervention increases plasma volume, improves vascular tone, and reduces sudden hemodynamic shifts. If this information is helping you rethink your mornings, consider subscribing. I share practical, science-driven strategies like this every day to help you protect your heart naturally. Now let's talk about something that feels harmless, even comforting. Morning coffee. For many adults over 60, the first action after getting out of bed is walking straight to the kitchen and brewing caffeine. It feels routine, normal, necessary, but timing is everything. Here's what's really going on inside your body. When you wake up, cortisol is already at its peak. This is your body's natural stimulant. It increases blood sugar, raises blood pressure, and enhances alertness. It is biologically designed to help you transition from sleep to wakefulness. Now imagine pouring gasoline on a fire that's already burning. Caffeine blocks adenosine, the molecule that makes you feel sleepy, and stimulates adrenaline release. It increases heart rate, it raises blood pressure, it can temporarily constrict blood vessels. In a healthy 30-year-old with flexible arteries, this surge is usually tolerated well. In someone over 60 with arterial stiffness, mild hypertension, or endothelial dysfunction, that extra stimulation can magnify the morning blood pressure spike we discussed earlier. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your cardiovascular system like a car engine warming up on a cold morning. You wouldn't immediately floor the accelerator the moment you turn the ignition. You let the oil circulate. You allow pressure to normalize. But drinking caffeine immediately after waking is like revving the engine at full throttle before lubrication stabilizes. Now layer caffeine on top of elevated cortisol, dehydration, increased platelet activity, sudden standing. This stacking effect matters. What the research shows is that caffeine can raise systolic blood pressure by 515 millimeter Meg in some individuals, especially those who are not habitual users or who are salt sensitive. For someone already experiencing a morning surge, that additional spike may push pressure into a range that strains vulnerable plaques. Does this mean coffee is dangerous? No. In fact, moderate coffee consumption is associated with cardiovascular benefits in many long-term studies. But the key variable is timing. The safer protocol is simple. Rehydrate first. Sit upright and breathe slowly for 1 to 2 minutes. Move gently, light stretching or slow walking. Then have your coffee 30-60 minutes after waking once circulation has stabilized. If this level of detail is helping you protect your heart, consider subscribing. I share daily science-driven strategies designed to optimize longevity naturally. There's one more amplifier in those first 30 seconds that most people never question: your phone. For millions of adults over 60, the alarm goes off, and within seconds, they're scrolling headlines, checking messages, reading emails, or watching the news. It feels harmless, but physiologically, it's not neutral. Here's what's really going on inside your body. When you encounter stressful information, alarming news, financial updates, emotionally charged messages, your brain activates the amygdala. That signals your hypothalamus. Cortisol rises further. Adrenaline increases. Blood vessels constrict. Heart rate variability decreases. In other words, your body shifts deeper into sympathetic dominance. Now remember, you were already in a cortisol awakening response. Your blood pressure was already climbing. Platelets were already more reactive. Blood was already slightly thicker. The phone doesn't create the surge, it amplifies it. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your cardiovascular system as a bridge carrying traffic. The morning surge is like rush hour beginning. Now add a sudden storm, wind, rain, instability. The load increases abruptly. Weak points are tested. Psychological stress increases inflammatory signaling and transiently raises blood pressure. In individuals with vulnerable plaque, even short spikes in hemodynamic stress can contribute to plaque rupture risk over time. This is why cardiologists often emphasize emotional stress as a trigger for cardiac events. And here's the subtle danger. This happens daily. Small spikes, compounded over years, create cumulative vascular wear. But the solution is beautifully simple. Create a 5-minute no-input buffer after waking. Instead of reaching for your phone, sit upright, hydrate, take 5 slow diaphragmatic breaths, 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out. Allow your nervous system to transition naturally. This breathing pattern stimulates the vagus nerve, increases parasympathetic tone, and stabilizes heart rate variability. It blunts excessive sympathetic activation. Then, after your body is stabilized, you can check your phone. You are not avoiding information. You are controlling timing. And timing, physiologically, is everything. If this is resonating with you, consider subscribing. I share practical, evidence-based strategies like this to help you protect your heart and extend your health span naturally. Now let's put everything together. In the final section, I'll walk you through a complete 3-5-minute morning cardiovascular protection protocol designed specifically for adults over 60. Simple, realistic, and powerful. Let's bring everything together into one simple, protective morning protocol. Because the goal is not to eliminate normal physiology, the goal is to respect it. Here's what we've learned. In the first minutes after waking, your body experiences a cortisol awakening surge, rising adrenaline, increased blood pressure, greater platelet reactivity, mild dehydration, reduced arterial elasticity if you're over 60. Now layer on the common 30-second mistake. Jumping out of bed, grabbing coffee, checking stressful information. It's not one single action that creates danger. It's the stacking effect. Sympathetic activation plus dehydration plus abrupt posture change plus stimulant plus stress input. Over years, that repeated surge becomes wear and tear on vulnerable arteries. So here's the cardiologist-approved 3 to 5-minute reset protocol. Think of it as a controlled launch instead of a shock to the system. Step 1, pause before movement, 60 seconds. When your alarm goes off, do not spring up. Sit upright slowly. Place your feet on the floor, but stay seated. Take 5 to 6 slow breaths, 4 seconds inhale, 6 seconds exhale. This activates the vagus nerve and stabilizes heart rate variability. Step 2, rehydrate 60, 90 seconds. Drink 250, 400 milliliters of room temperature water. This restores plasma volume and reduces blood viscosity. It prepares your heart for upright circulation. Step 3, gentle circulation activation, 60 seconds. Before walking quickly, do small ankle pumps or light seated stretches. This helps blood redistribute gradually and reduces sudden gravitational pooling. Step 4, delay stimulants and stress input, 30-60 minutes ideally. Wait at least 30 minutes before caffeine. Avoid news or emotionally stimulating content immediately upon waking. Let cortisol naturally decline before adding stimulation. That's it. 3 to 5 minutes, no medication, no expensive supplement, no extreme lifestyle change, just physiological respect for how the aging cardiovascular system operates. Let me be clear, waking up is not dangerous, but shocking your cardiovascular system repeatedly, especially after 60, can amplify risk over time. And here's your challenge. Tomorrow morning, try this protocol just once. Track how you feel. Notice your heart rate, notice your calmness, notice your mental clarity. Small daily patterns shape long-term outcomes. Protecting your heart isn't about dramatic interventions. It's about consistent, intelligent timing. If this added value to your life, like the video and subscribe to join a community focused on optimizing health naturally, without medication as the first solution. Your heart works for you every second of your life. Give it 5 mindful minutes in the morning. It may be the most important 30 seconds you change. Let's step back and look at the bigger picture. Cardiovascular disease doesn't usually begin with a dramatic event. It develops quietly through small, repeated physiological stresses that compound over time. And one of the most overlooked stress windows happens every single morning. We've covered what occurs biologically in those first minutes after waking. Cortisol and adrenaline surge. Blood pressure rises sharply. Platelets become more reactive. Blood is slightly thicker from overnight dehydration. Arteries, especially after age 60, are less elastic. None of this is abnormal. It's human physiology. The problem is when we amplify it. Jumping out of bed instantly, drinking caffeine immediately, checking stressful news before your nervous system stabilizes, shocking circulation before rehydrating. Here's what's really happening. You're stacking stressors on top of a system that's already in transition. And in a younger cardiovascular system, that stacking is often tolerated. But after 60, with arterial stiffness, endothelial changes, or mild plaque buildup, that repeated morning surge becomes a daily test of vascular stability. The encouraging part? This is one of the easiest risk factors to modify. You don't need a prescription. You don't need extreme exercise. You don't need expensive supplements. You need awareness and timing. 5 minutes of intentional transition. Sit before standing, breathe slowly, hydrate first, move gently. Delay caffeine and digital stress. That's it. This isn't about eliminating coffee. It's not about avoiding news. It's not about living cautiously. It's about respecting the physiology of an aging cardiovascular system. Let me leave you with a simple challenge. Tomorrow morning, do not change your entire life. Just change the first 5 minutes. Notice your heart rate. Notice your calmness. Notice your steadiness when you stand. Then repeat it for 7 days. Track how you feel. Because longevity is rarely determined by dramatic actions. It's shaped by consistent, intelligent habits that reduce unnecessary stress on your biology. If this helped you see your mornings differently, like the video and subscribe to join others who are optimizing their heart health naturally. Your heart beats over 100,000 times per day. Give it a gentler start. It may be the most powerful prevention strategy you implement this year. Now that we've explored the cortisol awakening surge, let's talk about another critical factor in morning cardiovascular risk: platelet stickiness. Platelets are the tiny cells in your blood that help it clot when you're injured. Under normal conditions, they're essential for healing. But first thing in the morning, platelets naturally become more sticky, which increases the likelihood of clots forming in arteries already narrowed by age or plaque. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Overnight, your body is in a fasted, low blood flow state. When you wake, your cortisol and adrenaline rise, and platelet activity intensifies. It's as if your blood is on alert, primed to seal any breaches in vessels. In a healthy young person, this surge is usually harmless, but in adults over 60, with subtle endothelial dysfunction or arterial stiffness, it can be dangerous. A sticky platelet combined with a sudden spike in blood pressure is a perfect storm for heart attack or stroke. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of platelets as painters with glue guns. Overnight, they're resting. In the morning, the glue guns fire automatically. If the walls they're painting, your arteries are smooth and intact, it's fine. But if the walls have cracks or plaque, glue starts to stick where it shouldn't, and that's a clot forming in your bloodstream. What research shows is clear. Most cardiovascular events occur in the first 2 hours after waking, precisely when platelet activity and blood pressure are at their morning peak. This is why millions unknowingly increase risk with seemingly harmless routines, like skipping gentle hydration, rushing to stand up, or having coffee on an empty stomach. These small choices can make platelets more prone to gluing together in vulnerable arteries. So, how can you protect yourself naturally? There are several simple strategies. Hydrate first thing. Drinking 200-300 milliliters of water immediately after waking improves blood flow, reduces viscosity, and supports platelet balance. A pinch of electrolytes can further optimize vascular tone. Gentle movement before standing, flexing ankles, circling wrists, or seated stretches can stimulate circulation without triggering sudden blood pressure spikes. Mindful breathing. Slow, deep breaths activate the parasympathetic nervous system, reducing sympathetic stress and lowering platelet reactivity. Nutrient support. Natural compounds like omega-3 fatty acids from fish or algae and polyphenols from berries, green tea, have been shown to reduce platelet stickiness and support healthy endothelial function. By incorporating these steps, you can reduce morning clot risk while still benefiting from cortisol's natural energy-boosting effects. It's not about eliminating the morning surge. It's about respecting it and supporting your body with evidence-based, low-risk interventions. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. I post content like this every day to help people over 60 protect their hearts naturally. Understanding platelet behavior is crucial because the next 30-second choices you make in your morning routine can determine whether you start the day safely or unwittingly stress your cardiovascular system. Next, we'll uncover the deadly 30-second mistake millions make immediately upon waking and exactly how to avoid it. A small behavioral tweak that could save your life. Let's start with the body's first alarm clock, the cortisol awakening surge. When you wake up, your brain signals the adrenal glands to release cortisol, a hormone designed to jumpstart your energy, raise blood sugar, and prepare your body for activity. In healthy younger adults, this surge is well regulated and beneficial. But in adults over 60, subtle changes in cardiovascular health, artery elasticity, and hormone balance make this morning spike a potential hazard. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Imagine your arteries as flexible garden hoses. Overnight, blood flow slows slightly, and the vessel walls become a bit less pliable. When cortisol surges in the morning, it's like turning the water on full force in a hose that's partially stiffened, pressure spikes, and the strain on the system is amplified. Your heart has to work harder, blood pressure rises, and your risk of cardiovascular events increases. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Picture a dam controlling a river. At night, water levels are low. In the morning, the gates open rapidly, and if the dam walls are already weakened, small cracks can worsen into dangerous breaks. Your cardiovascular system works similarly. The morning hormone surge is natural, but pre-existing stiffness, plaque, or inflammation can make it risky. Research shows that blood pressure, heart rate, and platelet activity all peak in the first 60 minutes after waking, a window that coincides with most heart attacks, strokes, and sudden cardiac deaths in older adults. This is not coincidence, it's physiology. The combination of cortisol, adrenaline, and other stress hormones makes your blood stickier and your vessels more sensitive to sudden pressure changes. Here's why this matters. Many older adults unknowingly exacerbate this natural surge with a common, simple mistake: standing up too quickly, rushing to the bathroom, or grabbing a cup of coffee immediately. That's the